I'm gonna call the general government committee meeting to order. Looking for a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Move to
I'll
approve.
second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. How about our minutes from our June 12th?
Motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? Not all in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Are there any public comments? Are there any supervisors present, or committee members that have any information for this committee? Nope. All right, we have some presentations from outside agencies. Looks like we have 4 of them. Are we gonna have some type of time limit or just free for all, or?
Generally, we have 10 minutes for a presentation and 5 minutes Q&A.
All right,
I know Terry will be faster than that.
and anyone that goes over that time would come out of their budget?
Yeah. With your salary, whatever it is by.
Can you give us some warning?
All right, we'll start with the Polk County Economic Development.
Were you gonna say something first, Don, or?
I was just gonna introduce anyone that we didn't know. So but, the chair's done a wonderful job at already.
Great. Well, good morning, everyone. Terry Hauer, Executive Director of Polk County Economic Development Corporation. And I think Claire is queuing up my little presentation, but I'll try and keep it to 10 minutes. I'm known to be a little more, once I get going, it's hard to stop me, but I'll keep it to 10. So the Polk County Economic Development Corporation was started in 2004 under the direction of the county. And since then, it's really grown to be a good, vibrant kind of single source for economic vitality throughout the county. So you can see our purpose there. That kind of is self-explanatory, but encourage and promote economic development, capital investment, and facilitate positive, sustainable economic growth. And that's the main thing right now is that as I'll show you, there's new businesses coming in, but anytime there's a new business, all the current employers are kind of like, hey, knock it off. You know, we got enough trouble hiring people as it is. We don't need new business. So it's kind of that double-edged sword because it just raises competition. But Claire, if you could go to the next slide. So just a little bit about the board itself. For those that don't know, we have a current board of 12. If those that want to serve, I know Ryan from the supervisors is our representative, and then also Brad Olson, who happens to be a supervisor, is also our ag representative on the board. But if anyone's interested, we do have some openings. We have monthly executive board meetings and monthly EDC meetings, and you can kind of see the board makeup there. We really try and make it inclusive of not only geographically throughout the county, but really different industries and sectors of business and employment that is based here in the county. So we really do focus on that as we look at new people coming in. You can go to the next one, Claire. So just to give you an idea of different committees and things we're involved in, of course, economic development is much more broad than it used to be. Used to be, you know, people thought economic development, you just run around to the business parks. I do spend a fair amount of time going to the business parks because that's where a lot of our major employers are, but there's so much more to it than that. And you can see by the diversity of the different committees that we're involved in, everything from workforce and marketing to broadband committee. It's all kind of in there, and you'll see in our major strategic objectives kind of how this all works together. But it's really much more anything that encompasses something that can help out the economy of Polk County is something that falls into our purview. So you can go to the next one, Claire. Something we instituted again this year. We didn't have it for 2 years because of the fact of COVID, and but we are redoing the Polk County EDC Awards. So we did this last year. It was very successful. We had over 100 attendees at this event, honored these various different businesses. We do intend to do that again this year, and we kind of changed it up. It used to be a lunch We now do a breakfast, and these are our recipients from last year. So just a little bit on that. You can go to the next one, Claire. So current focus, I kind of limited it to the top 3. And again, there's kind of a broad spectrum, but these are our top 3, and they all kind of work together. So you have workforce, you have housing, and you have childcare. So under workforce, that's just a constant battle, and it's not unique to Polk County. It's a statewide thing. Of the 72 counties in Wisconsin, many of the rural counties, which were considered, all have the same 3 top initiatives for their economic development. So one of the ways that we're handling the workforce initiative, and there's, we're constantly looking for ways to help out with workforce initiatives, but Prosper in Polk is the website that we started 2 years ago now. And that is to drive not only new people to look at Polk County as a potential employer, but also to retain those employees that are currently here. So that's also a big initiative, is just retainment of what we currently have. So Prosper in Polk is something that I'll do a little numbers on later as to the type of exposure we've gotten with that. Partner with family-friendly workplaces. That's an organization that's really based in, they're starting to expand a little bit, but they're based in Pierce, Polk, and St. Croix counties. And we've done a lot of partnership with them. We've done some events with them and some different things. We're also going to do a research study with them that we need to figure out why people would want to come to Polk County from the Twin Cities, because that's our major attraction as far as workforce goes. It's trying to get people, instead of going from Polk County into the cities, let's have them stay here and let's show them, why they would want to stay here. Grants and events and supporting retention and growth, of course, is a big thing. And that involves everything from our social media exposures to job fairs, education and opportunities that are available to the local employers. That's something I'm always doing. Housing, we just had a workforce and housing grant workshop hosted at the Balsam Lake Lodge here last week, I guess it was. Gabe Magnifici spoke. And we also have, there's a $10,000 grant per employee that's available if you can do some things to show how you're educating. And also it can be applied to childcare, transportation, all sorts of different things. And it's just a way that we can get that word out to our local employers, showing them that there are things that they might not be aware of that can help them not only grow, but retain those employees. County resolutions, there was the senior housing resolution, which failed before the county board. But since then, I've worked with Brad and those on the board to come up with the current resolution that passed, that is going to work with local municipalities to try and incentivize local development of housing. And it can be any type of housing, it can be senior housing, can be workforce housing, can be whatever it needs to be, and that county or that municipality wants to engage with it. This resolution that the county just recently passed will help at least make some funds available to help them engage with those local developers. Osceola Bluffs, I've spent a lot of time in the Osceola area working with the Osceola Bluffs apartment complex. They've had to go through many different hoops to get that. They're finally at the kind of final vote of that. It's a 99-unit development that would replace the 15-year-old dilapidated, dangerous hospital facility there. So Gone Companies is a developer, and I've worked with them quite a bit just to not necessarily promote the Gone Company, but just promote how much we need that type of housing in Polk County. It would definitely be the largest, not only project, but the largest housing project in Polk County ever that I'm aware of as far as size and scope of it. It's going to be a great addition to Osceola and really to Polk County. St. Croix Falls Impact 7 project, they're looking at a 40-unit Impact 7 housing, which is a broad spectrum of everything from market rate down to subsidized income. And that's going to be right off the industrial park in St. Croix Falls. And then Community and Economic Development Associates, they're actually a private organization, but they've partnered up with Momentum West, which is our regional economic development company. I've gone to a couple of meetings with them, and we're looking at how we can partner with them to make investment in housing and development within Polk County and within their region. So I have a meeting this upcoming week in Amory regarding a project there. So just some things on the housing that we're really trying to make a difference, because they work so hand in hand. You can't expand your workforce if you don't have the housing adequate for them. And then childcare, I wish I had more to report. Childcare is kind of that really tough nut to crack as far as what can we do about childcare? The wages are tough as far as what childcare services, even though it's very expensive to have your child in daycare, the wages for the actual employees of daycares are not all that competitive. It's very hard to enter into that business, but we do have some opportunities in our area where we're going to be able to maybe bring in some additional childcare, which I know all our employers are very much in favor of. We actually have employers right now looking at doing childcare at their facility because they know that they're missing out on employment opportunities because of parents that can't go to work due to the fact they either can't afford or childcare isn't available to them. And then grants and funding, of course, with that too. So Claire, if you want to go to the next one. This is just economic growth and opportunity. These new businesses, Sweet Additions, of course, in Dresser, as you saw, they were our new business of the year. Equus Magnificus in St. Croix Falls, Quick Trip, Balsam Lake Brewery and Market. Balsam Lake is really kind of the poster child for what you can do in a downtown development if you have the right mix of retail. So I use Balsam Lake a lot to try and say, hey, if you get the right mix, Milltown, Luck, Frederick, wherever it might be, you can also have this kind of environment. Balsam Lake has really exploded. And now that that's happened, we have people that are coming in wanting to buy. There's a couple vacant storefronts right now in Balsam Lake, but they're already purchased. And I'm already talking to those new owners to establish their new businesses. That'll just keep that growth and momentum going in Balsam Lake. And we want to make that happen in Milltown, happen in Centuria, wherever we can. We want to try and emulate that model. Business expansions is really kind of exciting. Oxbow and Clear Lake, they actually were looking at potentially moving their entire operation to New York. So I put together a team of our regional business partners, and we convinced them not only to stay, but they will actually be expanding their business in Clear Lake. So that was a big win. Noble X in Amory is expanding. They're already broken ground on their facility. Rock Shield Rubber and Schaefer Manufacturing, both expanding in Milltown, where there's a new 20-acre industrial development going in. 5 acres of that, Rock Shield Rubber has already purchased and have the plans for their new building. It's just a matter of getting it started. Traveling Companies based in Amory is now expanding. They needed additional space, so they actually bought a facility in Clear Lake. So they have an additional 30,000 square feet that they're using. InvestCast in Osceola, they are actually looking at maybe, they have facilities in Texas too. They're looking at potentially making this their headquarters, and there's some state incentives to make that happen. So I'm working with our state, Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation, to try and make that happen and give them all the tax benefits of turning this into their headquarters versus just a manufacturing facility. And then Stratus in Centuria continues to expand, and they are doing an expansion right now that'll be done this October. So that's all good. New opportunities. Some of that I covered already, but if you want to go to the next slide, Claire. This is a huge win for Polk County, but the St. Croix Health, for those that don't know, St. Croix Health has purchased 100 acres right next to the Menards, kind of where the Quick Trip is there. Of course, Quick Trip isn't on this map, but it would be right up in that corner near the roundabout. And this is huge, not only because we have 3 great healthcare providers in Polk County, which is a great attraction tool. We have Amory Hospitals and Clinics, we have Osceola, and we have now St. Croix Health, making a huge investment in our area. And they're only using, of this 100-acre purchase, they're only using 60. So I've already received numerous calls from people that are interested in those outlots, everything from housing to rehab services, senior housing. So that's going to be an ongoing effort. They hope to start moving some dirt yet, maybe this fall, with the new facility. And it'll take, this is a couple of year project, but this is a huge win for Polk County in our area to have a major employer like that, not only here, but a major healthcare provider as well. Next slide, Claire. So one of my big things since coming on in 2020 has been trying to focus on deliverables post-pandemic. So we have 2 different publications that we do. We have a dashboard publication, which is just a double-sided kind of state of the union, if you will, how Polk County is doing for numbers like housing, employment, wages, things like that. That's been a very positive response to that. We've submitted our first issue. Second issue is due out later this year. bi-monthly focus newsletter is called the In Focus. And that has provided some great exposure for us because even people that have lived in the county for many, many years, I've gotten emails and phone calls from people who are like, I had no idea that came from Polk County. Bending Branches, Oxbow, these are companies that ship all over the world. And people that have lived here for 40 years have no idea that right in their county, there's these great manufacturers that have these great jobs available. So that kind of exposure is exactly what the EDC is trying to accomplish. Regional Business Fund, obviously that's a tool that we count on a fair amount. Our continuing successful of Prosper and Polk. Events that we're housing, of course, align with what our top 3 objectives are. And then collaboration and regular contact with all our regional and state agencies that we can call in to help us. Clear, next slide. So just an example of what the In Focus looks like, what the dashboard looks like. If you're not getting them, you can sign up for them. It's electronic distribution on our website. We do have the dashboard is a tiered publication. So it's part of it's tied to our membership. So at a certain membership level, you get the dashboard, which is added value to our organization. So that's been a really good thing as well. Next slide, Claire. Again, just focusing on deliverables. The 2022 was the end of the bounce back grant, and that was the $10,000 fund you could have if you took over a vacant building. With anywhere within, it was called the Main Street Bounce Back, but it was really anywhere, didn't have to be on Main Street. And that program infused 1.16 million at $10,000 a piece into Polk County. So that was a big win for us. And each one of those had to go through a approval process, which included a letter from either myself or Paul Schaefer from Amory EDC. So that was a big win. A lot of new businesses got that $10,000 lift, which was meant to kind of be post-pandemic assistance. And then 2023 to date, so far with the Regional Business Fund in Polk County, they've invested a little over $362,000 for 16 new jobs. And those are anything from small organizations to larger organizations. The Regional Business Fund has 4 different products from a loan perspective that they can offer. And I'm on all those different meetings to kind of vet those people. I'm not a voting board member, but it is important that the EDC kind of be involved in that and know what's going on. Next slide, Claire. Prosper and Polk, this is kind of our, one of our biggest focus. So we've put a lot of time and effort into this. We've had over 2 million impressions with our 2 social media campaigns. And an impression basically means at some point, somebody's at least been exposed to Polk County via an electronic ad, via one of the social media campaigns. And we've had 2,200 page visits. Of that, 350 people registered for a contest that we offered a 2-night stay at the Balsam Lake Lodge. So 350 of those people that actually visited registered for that. And then I was able to share those names with our local employers. So again, kind of that deliverable, like what is the EDC doing for me? They've just given me 350 potential names to be new employees, which everyone needs. So that's been really successful, and we're just rolling out our next campaign. So we're hoping for just as much success for our Prosper and Polk. And the main goals, of course, exposure and list generation. So Claire, next slide. I'm trying to stay within my 10 minutes. I'm probably over already, sorry. So our plan moving forward is continue to leverage our established tools. As you can see, we have a lot of different things in play. I do have an assistant now that we've been able to hire. She works 10 to 12 hours a week. So she helps keep all this social media and different things up to date, because administratively that was taking a lot of my time and keeping me from getting out into the community. So that's been a great addition. Along with that, we're going to strengthen our communication and marketing initiatives. A lot of what economic development is not so much the numbers, but it's exposure. When you're a rural county like we are, it's really just letting people know all that Polk County has to offer. And that's one of the main things we do. So anyhow, I went too long, sorry. How many minutes over? Only 2 or 3, that's a new record. Questions?
I think we're good.
Okay. Thank you.
Looks like Kinship is next.
I just want to start by saying thank you for letting us come in and share a little bit about our program. My name is Lisa Thanig, for those of you who don't know me, and I am the Director for Kinship. With me today is Carolee Tollickson, and she is the Program Supervisor for our program. So we consist of 4 employees at Kinship. So we have Amy Danielson, she is a service coordinator as well, and then Shara Anderson is also on our staff. We're made up of a board, we have 7 board members, including Deborah Rudquist, who I see was on a board. And then she's the CEO of the Amory Hospital and Clinic. Andrea Skinner, who works with Midwest One. We have Rick Palmer, he's a retired superintendent for the Lux School District. Brandon Robinson, who just moved on from superintendent at the Unity School District. We have Jackie Schomer, she works with Burnett Dairy. Andrew Vitalis, who I'm sure you're familiar with, he is with the Polk County Sheriff's Department. And then Paula Johnson is our newest member, and she is a principal at the Amory School District. So I'm guessing that most of you know about our program, but we are a youth mentoring organization, and we have been around since 1980 here in Polk County. We have a school mentoring program, and then we also have a community-based program. We're in all 8 of the school districts where we match high school students with elementary, intermediate, and middle school students who need additional support. And then in our community-based program, we just match adults with youth throughout the county who need additional support as well. Our mission is to work to improve the quality of a child's life by establishing a relationship with a caring volunteer for the purpose of promoting stability, support, friendship, and community. We serve ages 5 through 18 all throughout the county. More than 80% of the youth that we serve currently live in single parent homes, and some are living with grandparents at this time. They've most likely experienced some trauma. Their parents may be struggling with addiction. They may be incarcerated. They might have mental health struggles or barriers. A lot of these homes have large numbers of adolescents in the home. They might be struggling with poverty or have welfare dependence, maybe a low level of education. That goes for the parents and the guardians. And so many of these youth are at risk of delinquency, substance abuse, mental health barriers, including what we're seeing a lot of right now, depression and anxiety, suicide risk, teen pregnancy, and of course, other barriers as well. Our partnerships, your impact and your funding over all of these years have really helped us in, partnering with all of the school districts. And that really allows us to reach out to more youth, especially in our rural communities. We are a prevention program, and prevention work and the benefits of intervening early to mitigate barriers caused by trauma and stress is really critical to youth success. Our youth who are part of a social network that is beyond family are less likely to internalize stress. They have reduced feelings of loneliness, depression, and anxiety, and have an overall better well-being. Our kinship mentors really create a trusting relationship. They help youth build problem-solving skills. They promote a sense of purpose for our youth, and they really just show youth what a healthy relationship looks like and feels like. Our mentors are supportive and they nurture healthy development. They encourage positive life choices. They build self-confidence, and they introduce youth to new life experiences. I'm really proud of the longevity of our staff. That's, I think, a testament to our program. Carolee has been with Kinship since 2000, so 23 years. She has been a program coordinator and moved into the supervisor position. Amy Danielson, who is not here right now, she has been with the program since 2001. I have been with Kinship since 2010, so for 13 years. And then Shara is our newest employee. She's going on her 2nd year, but we just really believe in what we're doing. We all have youth who have gone through the school district or are currently in one of the school districts in Polk County. And so, we see some of our kids' friends are those who need it the most. Why does mentoring matter? Our mentored youth are 55% more likely to be enrolled in college than those who do not have a mentor. Students who meet regularly with their mentors are 52% less likely than their peers to skip a day of school, and they're 37% less likely to skip a class. Mentored youth are 46% less likely than their peers to start using drugs, and 27% less likely to start drinking. Mentored youth are 81% more likely to participate regularly in sports or another extracurricular activity. Mentored youth are more than twice as likely to say they held a leadership position in a club or a sports team. And our mentored youth are 78% more likely to volunteer regularly in our communities. And we know that is a big deal. The most conservative study that we found on mentoring estimates a $3 to $1 return on investment for mentoring. So what your funding provides, we have been able to serve over 300 youth each year with the help of your support. Last year in 2022, we served 342 youth. And that's between our school program and our community-based program. 17 of our community-based youth were also working with Polk County last year, and 10 of them were referred by Polk County. The majority of our referrals come from the school districts, from guidance counselors, from teachers, or other outside agencies that are working with youth. Your help support our partnerships with all 8 school districts in the county. You've helped to provide 8,366 hours to mentoring just last year. So that is pretty great. We are able to hold 10 or more group activities each year. Those activities include things like a trip to the children's theater, troll hog and snow tubing, or the aerial course. We take the kids fishing, both ice fishing and out on some really great fishing boats. We do a craft night and a swimming night. We have an amazing race event actually coming up this Thursday in Amory, and that has been really fun. This will be our 2nd year doing that. So that's just an example of some of the activities that your funding helps provide. We're able to provide small group mentor gatherings throughout the county where we get mentors together in the Luck and Frederick area. We might get them together in St. Croix Falls and Osceola, where they can kind of meet and talk through the struggles they're having in mentoring, or just celebrate some of the great things that they are doing. We also provide one large group formal mentor training each year, and we typically have a mental health focus for that. There is a shortage of mental health professionals, and Polk County helps to fill that gap by providing funding to support trauma-informed mentor training. This trauma and mental health education helps our mentors guide youth through their everyday struggles. Simple things like sibling conflict, if they're getting bullied on the bus, and then of course, perceptions of their self-worth. The average cost per youth served across all mentoring programs is $1,695 a year. So that's per match. However, as the percentages of youth with higher needs in the program increases, so does the average cost. As the cost per youth increases, so does the quality of services offered, including increased pre and post match training and more match support. And that's what we are looking to do, more training for our mentors to really support them in their roles, to support the youth who are experiencing, greater trauma or mental health barriers. According to Mentor, more than 80% of adults support government investment in mentoring, and more than 2/3 are already mentoring or willing to consider it. Your funding last year provided 16% of our annual budget, and we are just really grateful for that. We also receive financial support through grants and foundations, through individual and business donations, through sponsorships and school support. And then we also do one large annual fundraiser, which is coming up on August 3rd. That is our Luau fundraiser. You've maybe heard of it. This will be our 15th year doing it. Your support allows us to focus more on our program services and spend less time working to fundraise, which is great. I want to be out working on program and spend less time going out and asking people for money. Partnering with you and combining our resources is really critical to improving the communities that we live in. Many of the youth that we serve, we know stay right here in the county, and so we need to continue to invest in them in any way we can. With COVID kind of moving behind us, our youth applications for our services are absolutely on the rise, and many of our youth are experiencing increased mental health barriers, including, like I mentioned, social anxiety and depression. We currently have 22 youth waiting, which is a very high wait list for us. We're making a lot of matches, but we're receiving a lot of youth applications as well. We all know cost of living and inflation has gone up dramatically. And with that, businesses have seen a lot of these expenses as well. Our printing costs, the supplies, our mileage rates, our postage, that has all gone up. We do our best to retain our employees, and I think we are doing a great job at that. And we just want to keep, our wages competitive so that we can keep our staff here. We're just really grateful for your financial support, and we rely on that to serve as many youth as possible. So for 2024, we're asking for $40,000 in support because we expect that our annual expenses will continue to rise. Our impact really is far and wide, and when we end our matches, when youth turn 18 or graduate from high school, oftentimes the kinship match or the relationship continues even though kinship is no longer involved. I'm sure you all know Shabana, who is sitting at the back of the room. She was mentored in our program, and she has a really, really neat story. Her mentors, David and Kathy, babysit her kids, and they're still very, very involved. They are like family, I would say. Another example, we have a young man named Derek who is mentored in our program. He graduated quite a few years ago from it. He was recently married, and his kinship mentor was his best man in his wedding. So I just think that's a really, really cool thing. I'm going to turn this over to Carolee. She has a quick little story that she wants to share.
Yeah, I'll keep this really quick. Lisa just asked me to share. I think sometimes we have all the statistics, which are important to know, but the heart of the program is our relationships. And so I just wanted to share one of our current matches. We had a young lady in 2019 that I matched in kinship, and she was really struggling with anxiety. And so she was having a hard time leaving her home. Her parents were supportive, but there was a lot of trauma that the whole family had been through, and they did not have extended family in the area. So they didn't have anybody to kind of reach in, and didn't have webs of support from the community at the time either. So they were kind of soloing, and all of the family was really struggling. I am going to pass this around. I know it's kind of hard because everybody's spread out a little bit, but I decided to highlight this match because of the story. At the time that I matched her, I knew I was going to need a mentor who was extremely patient and gentle and willing to take time. And so when they first were matched, this young girl's name is Caitlin, and her mentor's name is Diana. And Diana would go into the home, and Caitlin just wasn't yet ready to even leave the home. So Diana would go and just spend time in the home, getting acclimated, so Caitlin could get more comfortable with her and feel more comfortable leaving. And when they first started doing any activities, it would be for very short periods of time, just going out of the home for a little bit and bringing her back when she was ready. I'm sharing the picture because fast forward 3.5 years, this match has just, watching the relationship and Caitlin's development has been such a blessing and such a neat story, because she began to get more and more comfortable. She began to make relationships with Diana's grandchildren. So became friends with her granddaughters, and they do a lot of service. They're both very service minded and very creative. And so they like to volunteer at the animal shelter. They have done baskets for the police officers and the fire department, and like to go and just bless our community as a match. In June, we do monthly check-ins. And so the picture you just saw, Diana's family had a picnic for the extended family. And while Diana's very gentle and very kind of soft-spoken, her family would be the opposite. They are loud and boisterous and super fun, which is awesome. But she invited Caitlin to come to the picnic, and she even said, I wasn't sure if she would come. And Caitlin said, yeah, I think I'll come. And so the picture is just one of Caitlin within this huge family unit. And similar to what Lisa just said, one of the things I've loved to watch in kinship is not only is it the relationship between the mentor and the mentee, but it becomes an extended family. So often they're introduced to whether it's grandparents who take an invested interest in the child, or cousins or aunts and uncles, and they become part of a bigger unit that lasts well beyond our involvement with them. So just as a community, like Lisa said, we so appreciate your support, because it goes beyond the years that they're with kinship to, as Shabana's example, years beyond, where it becomes like an extension of family. And we really need that as a community to just be supporting each other and making a difference. So appreciate your time this morning.
We're always in need of mentors as well. So if anyone is interested in just kind of sitting down and talking with us, there's no pressure. We want to make sure that, you know, it's something you really, really want to do, because it is an investment, but please know at any time that you can come and chat with us about that. And that's really it. Does anyone have any questions?
We're good.
Okay, like
Very
that.
good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa.
Polk County Historical Society is next.
Hi. Hi, everybody. My name is Brenna Weston. I am the new director of the Polk County Museum. So I started in April, so this will be first time meeting all of you. With me today is Jan Carlson, the president of our Historical Society. So she's here to offer any support with questions, specifically financial, that I might not be able to answer. But we can go ahead and get started. Just really briefly, just kind of some things that we're going to go, I'll just kind of touch on today. Next slide, Claire. Thank you. So yeah, mission statement of the Polk County Historical Society, right? It's preserving the past for future generations by collecting a unique and enduring collection of Polk County history that is then shared to the public through programs, exhibits, and research. So it kind of encompasses a lot, but I think it's a great way to highlight all of the things that the Historical Society does, and that, you know, everything that's in the museum. So if any of you have been to the museum, it's just down the road. I encourage you to come visit it. It is a 3-story building. It's the old courthouse, right? So we have a lot of space to take in a lot of these unique and enduring items that encompass the history of Polk County. So the organizational structure, it's a nonprofit organization with an 8-member board. These people, these board members, along with other volunteers and staff, me, basically really help run the museum and keep us in line with our mission statement and our vision. The Historical Society is not only responsible for the 3-story courthouse, but we're also responsible for the Lanesdale School, which is actually just also in downtown Balsam Lake. We typically host events through the school every summer, like we do historical school events. This week, Amory is actually hosting their Pioneer School right in the schoolhouse this week. So you can always come by and just take a peek and see what they're doing. The main function of the Historical Society is to collect and preserve these artifacts that are representative of Polk County's history. And then through these programs and exhibits, these are then places to educate and celebrate the history of this county. And the biggest thing I want to highlight is that admission is free to the public. We are obviously very excited when people choose to donate to the museum, but we really want to make it available for everybody at all income levels. So we did make a point to make admission free to the public. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is kind of a lot of just statistics and numbers and all that kind of stuff, but I'm a numbers person, so I like looking at that. I hope you do too. So 2022, that was last year, our open days on the left there, number of open days and monthly hours. Obviously, June, July, and August are kind of our really big days. The museum is typically open Memorial Day weekend through Labor Day. So that doesn't give us a lot of time to stay open, but when we are open, we're open as much as we possibly can be. Usually we're open Thursdays through Sundays. However, now that I am there full time, I'm also available to anybody that's interested in coming in. You know, if they're traveling from out of town and they can't make it Thursday through Sunday, but they can make it on a Tuesday, I'm happy to open the place up and let people look around. I'm also available for any of you if you would also like to come by and take a look. Number of visitors by month, July usually skyrockets because not only do we have Freedom Fest, that is a huge deal in Balsam Lake. We also have an exhibit at the Polk County Fair at the Little Red Schoolhouse at the fairgrounds. So that usually brings in a lot of people. Next slide, please. So education events and volunteer hours. So typically when I say education events, that can range from anything from offering school tours. We typically have a number of fourth grade classes that come to the museum, typically in the spring, to get a feel for, you know, Polk County history. That's when they get to learn all about the state history and regional history. We also have allowed seventh graders in civics to come into the building because, again, as a former courthouse, they get to see the upstairs and potentially practice a little bit in the courtroom that is still kind of in its original condition. In addition to education events like that, we also offer a monthly speaker series where somebody can come in to talk to the public about typically a Polk County historical interest. Recently at Freedom Fest, we had a woman come talk to folks about Civil War letters of somebody that was from, I think it was the Hudson area. We also have a number of volunteers that come in and help with anything from, you know, from cleaning the exhibits to helping move exhibits around, creating new collection pieces. Right now, it's basically just making sure we have enough space for any new items that we get in. So that's what I've been having a lot of volunteer help with lately. So those are just some of our numbers from last year. Typically, again, it peaks right through when we're open, and then we kind of trail off towards the end of the year, just as everybody starts to kind of reset for the next year. Next slide. Thank you. So this is what currently everything is sitting at right now. So open days and hours, June obviously is pretty high. July, since we're in the middle of July, it's a little bit lower. But we fully expect that to be equal to, if not more than, June's number of open days and number of open hours. Visitors by month, definitely Freedom Fest was a huge boost and it was really exciting. We got to see over 450 people that came through the museum and also through the schoolhouse on the weekend of Freedom Fest. So that was really, really exciting for us. Education events, again, we had a number of school tours, especially came through in May this year. And we also have started partnering with a lot of local organizations, specifically the libraries, to kind of see where we can work on events with them. So specifically last month, Osceola Public Library had this event called the Old Timey Library Party. So they were putting on different stations that were kind of based on books. And so what I did is I brought some items from our education collection that are able to, you know, that are a little bit safer for kids to interact with. They're not going to fall apart or hurt anybody. So I brought in a number of old hats that we had, a pair of old glasses, a typewriter, and we got to let kids, you know, play around with them, touch them, interact with them. And they seem to have a great time. So we're planning on continuing to do those with libraries, any kind of community organizations, anybody that's interested. That's who I'm working with. Our monthly volunteer hours, again, have started to really pull up. It's been a little bit easier now that I'm there full time. So they're not as stretched thin. So they're able to supplement kind of the hours that I'm not there. Just kind of an overview of 2022 fundraising. Donation of items, the approximate valuation is $900. It's sometimes hard to value what people donate based on their condition and how long they've been in storage, things like that. Sometimes that can cause damage. Monetary donations, a little over 11,000. sale of artifacts, program income, gift shop sales, and memberships. So we do allow folks to, again, we obviously very much appreciate donations, but we also offer membership levels in terms of, if they want to be a sponsor as a business, or if they want to just have a family membership or an individual membership. All of that money goes towards helping us keep our collections preserved, keep them safe and able to actually be exhibited for folks to come through the museum in the future. And then 2023 fundraising to date, again, we've received a large number of donations already so far. Some of those items include a number of photographs, pictures, prints, a lot of World War I, World War II, and Vietnam era gear and uniforms. And just the other day, I just received somebody's Purple Heart. So that was a really special donation. Received a few rifles and wood carvings, things like that. There's too many to name at this point. I'm still going through them all. We're also working on a number of grants, not only to help with collection preservation, so everything on the inside of the building, but also things on the building, around the building, and the schoolhouse. So the Hugh J. Anderson Foundation, we just received that grant for the Lanesdale School windows to be replaced. Hopefully we'll have a little bit better heat preservation and air preservation inside the building, so it'll stay cooler in the summer and warmer in the winter. We also applied for a Wisconsin Historical Society mini grant, which we did not receive, unfortunately. But we did receive the Polk Burnett Electric Cooperative's Operation Roundup grant to help us with UV coverings for our windows. If anybody's been in the museum, you might notice that it's a little dark. That's because we did have to cover the windows to keep sunlight from affecting some of the quality of the collections. So what we're hoping to do is actually open some of those back up again, but put quality UV coverings so we don't have sun damage on the collections, but we still get some light in the building. The Hardenberg Foundation, we just applied for a grant for them to kind of help with operational costs. And we also received the Fred C. and Catherine B. Anderson Foundation grant for operational costs as well. Finally, one of our kind of raffles or items that we're doing this year for fundraising is a quilt raffle. So we have 2 quilts that are being made in celebration of Polk County's 170th anniversary and Wisconsin's 175th anniversary. So we'll be selling raffle tickets throughout the summer. If anybody's interested, you can get them at the museum. And raffle winners will be announced at the end of the wine walk, which the museum is also participating in. Briefly, so just in terms of numbers and how we get our word out there, we do post ads and stories in the local newspapers as much as we can for any upcoming events, anything that we have happening. We have a pretty big social media presence. So social media and website. So our website was created, I think 3 years ago. So within the last year, we've definitely increased the number of, the blue one is visits to the actual website, and the orange line is the actual page visits. So once they're on the website, how many times do they kind of click around? Do they see the whole part of the website? Things like that. So it started to kind of, again, peak when we're open, increased again in December based on likely the Christmas stroll. Then we'll go to the next one. And so as of the end of June, our numbers are steadily increasing. I'd like to think it's because I reworked the website, maybe not, but I'll give myself a little pat on the back. We did streamline the website a little bit more to make it easier for folks to click around and get to actually what they want to see and where they want to be on the website. And then if you go to the next slide, I believe, yes. Social media. So we have a Facebook account, which is Polk County Historical Society. We have an Instagram account at Polk County Museum. So we reached about 33,600 folks last year through Facebook, through our posts alone. Instagram was only 120. So as of this year, we've reached 15,000, almost 16,000 people through Facebook. 13,000 of those was just between May 1st and the present. That I am going to give myself a pat on the back for because I started in April. So I was the one that took over the social media accounts. So that's been a really big focus of mine, is posting near daily, either just updates on what we're doing at the museum, a focus on one of our collection pieces, or just, reminders to get people to come see what we have. We've moved some things around, so that's been kind of a new exciting thing. So we're hoping that increases traffic. Our Instagram post has already surpassed what it was last year, so that's a big fun achievement. So current Facebook followers, a little over 2,000, and current Instagram followers, about 420. I know not a lot of people, it's hard if you have Facebook, do you need Instagram? So we're trying to kind of see if we can balance the two. So we have a strategic plan. I believe that was all sent to everybody. So this is just a brief overview of some of the things that we're addressing in the strategic plan itself. Through the administration, there was a communications process that I implemented. So it limits how many people have access to our email within the board. So it's not, so we're not over communicating with folks, and we're not under communicating with folks. If it's coming to one person, then that one person is the one responsible to actually respond to folks, instead of trying to make sure that that person did get addressed. The collections policy, we do have a new collections plan that was approved at our June meeting. So it allows for us to reduce some of the items in our collection. And when I say reduce, I don't mean like throw in the garbage. I mean, find another museum that might be interested in having them, or potentially destroying them if it's so severely damaged that we can't find a way to use it. So this will also allow us to, again, continue accepting those unique and enduring pieces of Polk County's history, while also creating exhibits that can be rotated out to continue to have folks come visit us throughout the year. If you have a new exhibit in, folks might actually want to come back and come see it. Past Perfect is our data entry for our collections management system. So that was a new project that I started when I began at the museum. It's a huge undertaking, so it's something that will continue to be an ongoing process. And like I said, the grant submitted to install UV coverings for our windows. Briefly, exhibits, we just created a small rotating exhibit for baseball history just in Polk County for the summer. We hung some Polk County artwork in the hallways just because it was a little dark in there. I thought I'd brighten it up with some art. We moved exhibit pieces around for a better fit and for easier movement for visitors. And the best part that I like is that I've added interactive pieces to the museum. So I've allowed, I've put up signs that let people, kids of all ages will say, know that they can touch these pieces and that they can interact with them. For instance, the typewriter that's downstairs, you can hear it click-clacking away anytime there's kids in the museum. We're also, again, like I said, partnering with Polk County Libraries for community events that are, throughout the summer and into the fall. We continued participation in Balsam Lakes Chamber of Commerce. So that led to our participation again in this year's Freedom Fest, selling root beer floats, which we did sell out of root beer floats by mid-morning on Sunday. So that was exciting. We're also participating in the wine walk this year. We're also planning to stay open again, since I am there full-time now, to stay open later in the year, at least through Halloween, and to kind of revive some of these older events that have not been done probably since before COVID. So some of those include like the Halloween trick-or-treating events, things like that. Human resources that's me. I've hired full-time starting in April. So I think that takes a lot off the plates of some of the board members who are kind of doing, not only juggling their own jobs, but also managing part of the museum. And so I think this makes it a lot easier, and it allows me to focus on things that I really like to do. And it allows them to kind of focus on their certain areas of interest, like archiving or collections management, things like that. Technology, social media postings are near daily now. We have a lot of interaction with it. We implemented communication strategies to better reach board members and volunteers, so nobody's confused, nobody's questioning, am I supposed to volunteer today or not? We remapped the website, and we also plan to create a virtual exhibit for those people who might not be able to make it to the museum in person. Or maybe you could just get snowed in and you want to see what you can do for a day. Maybe we'll create a virtual exhibit over the winter. So that's why, again, we're asking for $50,000 for the next year to support the things that the museum would like to complete, including but not limited to, continued matching for funds so we can match for installation of those UV coverings for our windows to brighten up the space. Improve some of the storage solutions for our collections. A lot of those things need to be put in acid-free folders, acid-free boxes, so they don't deteriorate further. Those things, of course, are never cheap. Reconfiguring some of the display cases to make the collections safer when they are displayed. Right now, a lot of them are on pegboard and you have to jam those metal holes in there, and it's all sorts of difficult. Increase the number of events throughout the year. We have that monthly speaker series event, but we want to keep that going throughout the winter. Again, we want to continue to partner with community organizations like our libraries. We want to create new events between the wine walk and the Christmas stroll. Anybody that knows me knows that Halloween is my absolute favorite time of year. I'm already planning it. It's a night at the museum. It's going to be haunted. It's going to be spooky. It's going to be really fun. But those events, obviously, depending on how much I want to spend on skeleton decorations, that can cost some money. We also want to create rotating exhibits, again, to increase that visitor traffic throughout the year. So if it's in the fall, we might switch out a couple exhibits with something new to get people to come back. And to also enhance our education collection to allow for more interaction, especially, again, kids of all ages. So that can include adults. I think that is it. So if anybody has any questions.
We're good.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you, Russ. William Johnson from Frederick and currently chair of the Polk County Tourism Council. Fortunately, since most of the people at the table are the same as last year, I won't go through the history of the Polk County Information Center, but I will just say that Polk County has been a partner with the Polk County Tourism Council running the Information Center for the last 30 years. And eventually you'll see how successful we've been compared to some of our other counties next to us. So we're currently in the process of hiring a new director. And somebody mentioned it before from Kinship about the consistency of having staff that lasts it's there for a long time. In 30 years, we've had 2 directors for the Information Center. That's been pretty good. So we're currently in the process of recruiting a new director. And I think we'll talk a little bit about that. But in light of not having a director along tonight, we have 2 members from the Tourism Council that are going to be doing most of the presentation. And one of them is Josh Hansen from Big Rock Creek. He's been on the council for maybe 6 months. So he's one of our newer members, but that if you're familiar with Big Rock Creek, that is one of the new premier destinations for Polk County as far as visitors to Polk County and Polk County residents. And also we have our finance director, Earl Duckett from Osceola, who will be talking a little bit about the financial end of it, our budget for next year, and our request to Polk County with that partnership that I mentioned before. So next slide, Claire, please. When I talked about before, the total economic impact in Polk County of the visitors that come here, as well as the state, set a new all-time record in 2022. And you can see the difference. We went up 11.4%. The state went up about 12%. And that's compared to the other counties next to us. Right? You can just go down the list. This might have been handed out too, but we do very well in Polk County. And I think that's because of the efforts that we spend to bring visitors to Polk County to spend their money. So I think with that, we'll get back to, we'll just get into the basic part of our discussion, and I'm glad everybody stayed the same so we don't have to go through all the history of the Information Center again. It saved me a little bit of time. So thank you very much to the committee and Chris and Don. So Josh, thank you.
Thanks, William. As William said, I'm Josh Hansen from Big Rock Creek. And Earl is going to handle the rest of the presentation for it after I'm done chatting with everybody here. We're here to give you a quick take on 3 different things. What the council has been up to, our strategic goals for the future, roadmap to the future, and finally our 2024 budget request. I think you can go to the next one. There you go. But I'd like to start by telling you why I decided to join the council. As I said, I'm one of the newer members of the council. And I decided to get involved because I wanted to be a part of bringing people to Polk County and continuing to bring people to Polk County to show everybody exactly what Polk County has to offer. I think too often people look at us as a place that people drive through to get up north in Wisconsin. And I think that that's a missed opportunity in that we offer both up north in Wisconsin and proximity to the Twin Cities that a lot of those other places can't offer. Big Rock Creek is a facility that does events year round. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with our big event, Miracle at Big Rock. It's a Christmas Light Festival. We had about 50,000 people through there last year. We also do camping, glamping, and other events throughout the year. Overall, we bring about 100,000 people through Polk County just to come and attend events, camp, glamp, have a wedding at Big Rock Creek. Next slide, please.
I think you gotta go back.
Oh, should be slide 4. With the equivalent of only 2 full-time staff and hundreds of hours of volunteer time, the council has served Polk County for over 30 years. The information center has had 1,500 calls, 6,000 emails, and 11,000 in-person visitors. 25,000 copies of the visitor guide gets delivered to 650 locations on an annual basis. Annual tourism industry conference. Our social media and website presence is being updated daily, and paid media partnerships to leverage ad dollars. Next slide, please. So 2022 highlights: launched the Discover Polk County website. St. Croix County Tourism Conference returned after the pandemic. Completed an in-depth market research study in partnership with the University of Wisconsin. Rolled out the Discover the Unexpected campaign with Minnesota Monthly. Added 2 dynamic tourism leaders to the council, Josh Hansen and Alyssa Otten, the landscaper's daughter. Alyssa is extremely talented in social media, web design, and areas that we really felt like the Tourism Council could use a boost. With that, I'll hand off to Earl. He'll go over the but
Okay. Right. In late 2022, we started a strategic planning process. And it took about 6 weeks, different meetings. We came up with 3 focuses for the next 3 years. Modernize the information center for both in-person and virtual visitors. What we have is an information center that was designed in 1990. Today, there are much different ways of communicating, and the people coming through the information center use social media. Wasn't a thing back 30 years ago. So we really need to modernize this. This is something that has come up several times over the last year. And we're going to be focusing on that in 2023. We also have are developing a marketing plan that uses what we learned on our market research study. And we're trying to target our marketing efforts as opposed to a shotgun approach to marketing where you just put it out there and hope people read it. We want to get to the people that are actually interested in coming here. And the third thing is build stronger community tourism industry network. What we have in Polk County is we have a lot of groups interested in tourism, interested in growing the economy, but they're not working together. We're all kind of doing our own thing. And we've identified that, in fact, that's not going to work in the future. So this is something where we have cities, we have towns, we have town boards, we have county government, we have economic development, all of these groups, and we have residents. All of these groups need to be working together to grow tourism as a component of our economic vitality. Slide. In 2024, we are going to be looking at how do we modernize our information center. We don't have a handle on what that's going to look like yet. That needs study. We need to look at other information centers that have gone through this process to try and figure out how we best can utilize the information center to help grow the tourism economy. And also in the process of doing that, how do we reconfigure management? With the retirement of Colleen, we have an opportunity. And right now, we have put together a job description, which is a part-time manager for the information center. Would be a half-time job. We are not replacing Colleen at this point. We were going to try and do that through consultants, professionals, that marketing people, somebody to help us figure out where we need to go with the information center. We'll talk about that in the budget, but utilizing third-party professionals to help get us to where we need to be. The second thing we're going to be working on, professionalized marketing and advertising, build on market research data, target identified audiences, and do that through contract work. So the budget that we put together allows us to meet our current commitments, invest in the future, and be flexible as changes are needed. This is kind of a work in progress. We haven't done this before. And I think it's a huge opportunity in how we professionalize the marketing of tourism for Polk County. Slide. Okay, our budget. And we compared it to 2022 here because 2023 is kind of, this retirement of Colleen, it's kind of a mix. So going back to 2022, which was the last actual full year, we did 108,000 in 2022 for payroll. We're projecting that we'll do 78,000 next year. We are planning to do outside consultants for our project development plan, our information center development plan. Where do we go in the future? We have to go to somebody that's a professional that can help us get there. Marketing, our marketing contract, we're talking about contracting that out. And we put 25,000 in there for that. There are people that are professional marketing people that understand how to market this tourism for Polk County. We don't have those skills internal to the information center, and we do have some marketing skills on the board now, which is a huge addition, but those people have jobs and they're busy, and we can't expect volunteers to do that. So we need to contract that out. We also have other small for website, $5,000 in going to phase 2 on the website. And then I think this other down here is who's to get back the county consortium for marketing Northwest Wisconsin. Next slide. Last year, 2022 and last year, the contribution from Polk County was $60,000. We're asking for 80. Lodging tax, this might be a few $1,000s higher. When we put this together, we were still looking at the possibility of a recession. And so we're conservative, but I don't think it's going to be significantly higher than that. Grants, 50,000, that could be a stretch. I don't have a clue where all of that's coming from. I can kind of tie down $30,000 of that. The rest of it is we would try and find additional grants. And then other small revenue, total revenue we're looking for is 175,000 compared with 145,000 in 2022. And with that, I'd like to thank you all for working together in the past to promote Polk County tourism as part of the economy, and look forward to working with you in the future. And with that, questions?
All right, thank you. We want to have a discussion. Vince, what do you think? Or wait till we get all our presentations in, or how?
I think let's wait till we get all the presentations, and I think it'd be appropriate to kind of discuss overall strategy and approach and individual exceptions, that type of thing.
Let's have a discussion on a possible resolution 3023 for men's staffing.
Yes. Basically, it's a short resolution here that we've put together. You can read it, but the main thing is we've been discussing now for a few years the security of all of our buildings, but in particular, how do we increase security in this building? And the reason we're bringing this forward is we think we have a good solution, and the timing is such that we can get the appropriate training for people here this summer. And so we have a budget neutral proposal that will add 2 correctional officers to the staff, and so the sheriff would hire these folks. They would be trained and they would replace Parmar, the security company over at the Justice Center. So we still have the metal detector over there, but we'll have a corrections officer who's been trained and working there, and we'll have a correction officers over here in this building. And it's budget neutral by eliminating Parmar. And we felt like, and because it's adding 2 FTEs, even though it is budget neutral, we need to bring it in front of the General Government Committee and the board.
So what are you looking for? You looking for us to get this moved to county board?
Yes, and that's like all resolutions, you can forward that on to the county board. You could make a recommendation, or you can just forward it on.
Make a motion move to the county board with a recommendation.
Of.
Yeah.
This went through public protection too.
We did introduce the concept and explained it to public safety, public
It was
works.
well
yeah.
accepted there.
I think
I'll
anytime you
second.
can keep things internal,
Yes,
the better off we are. We can manage it better, we can control it better, and it's
Yep.
budget neutral.
I'll
I think
second.
If the sheriff is on board with it, I think it's something we should support.
It is, it does give him added flexibility then, again, with the FTEs, which he needs.
And flexibility to personnel. I'll second that.
All right, any more discussion on the motion? Not all those in favor?
Aye.
Carries. We're looking for an update. To the budget. Governor's budget. Like the draft fee schedule.
Morning, everyone. Just want to briefly update you on where we're sitting with budget here in July. We can go to the next slide. You've seen a little bit of this before, mid-year review, subject to change, things are moving, but a few more things have been locked down since the last time I was before you. While inflation is moderate, has moderated since last year. If we were at 8 or 9% last year, we're looking at about 5 now. Fed's considering raising rates, but at the last cycle, they left them around 5.25. Employment rate hadn't gotten to us by the time I put the slide together, still historically low. And this is the interesting thing, for every one job seeker, there's 1.7 jobs right now. Reinforcing Terry's point from earlier today. Here's what's changed since the last time I was up here. The governor's budget has been approved, locking in some dollars for Polk County in terms of shared revenue, about $566,000. There are stipulations on what that money can be used for. And for our county, there's really 4 buckets. There's public safety, and you just move something onto the board that will improve public safety for us. Infrastructure is part of the package. We can spend some of that 566 on infrastructure, courts, and transportation. So right now we're looking at how to divide that 566, and we'll get back to general government and to the board with information about how that might go down. But if we just did it proportional to expenses within our budget currently, roughly 250 would go to law enforcement, 250 to public works, the balance to the courts and the transportation. We don't get any money from opioids, unlike some of our friends in other counties, the other 71. No news there. County sales tax. So we're looking at about 7% up from last year, roughly inflation. Sales tax roughly mirrors inflation. So we're looking at being a little less conservative with our sales tax budgeting for 2024. We've been extremely conservative in banking money off sales tax. We're going to have some significant budget pressures this year. So we're talking about, instead of 2023, 4.4 million in the budget from sales tax, about 4.8, about 400 extra. Last time I was before you, new construction didn't look that good, but Bob's mentioned to me recently that permits have been ticking up. So we're guessing we're going to have net new construction for the budget, roughly $315,000 in 2024. That's all good news. Bad news is we're having a tough healthcare year. We had a tough healthcare year in 2022. Our actuaries are saying, expect a tough healthcare year in 2024. And they're telling us we should expect at least 10% additional healthcare related expense for 2024. Okay, next couple of slides. Right now, we're modeling a COLA plus merit. That's a wage increase that's sort of between our 2022 level and 2023 level. 2022, we were at 4.9, 23, 5.7, somewhere there in the middle. Our wage study is really starting to sew up now. We're imagining keeping, say, 2% of our budget dollars related to employee-related expense for implementing the most significant changes for that wage study. So we've got positions within the county that are where there's a real big gap. We'll try to address those first, try to keep about 2% back for that. We know our benefits are going to be more expensive in 24 than in 23. Right now, this is not new information from the last time I was up here. We're still modeling 0% increase operationally for departments. Given inflation, that's a decrease. Capital expenditures, all the division directors and the department folks have submitted their capital requests for 2024. On the low end, they're totaling about 1.6 million. On the high end, about 2.1. Any questions so far? On the revenue side, I already talked about the shared revenue, sales tax I discussed. Levy, that's those permits, that net new construction, discussed that. Right now, we're modeling $0 transfer from the general fund. Try to avoid spending our savings account to support operations. Our consultants at PMA remind us that we've got about $1.8 million of borrowing capacity. So thinking back to those capital projects, one way to handle that without changing our levy would be to borrow money from the market at the 1.8. If we want to do those projects, we'll have to figure out how to pay for them. Any questions on this? Okay, we'll go next. Part of our revenue picture is our fee schedule. This is a big pile of information. I'm going to sum up what's in here for you. Just one second. Sure. This is every fee in the county. Most of these are flat. This is a draft. The draft shows most of these being flat from 23 to 24, and most were flat in 23. The issue for us is that our cost increased over both of those years. Our employee cost last year went up 4.7%. This year it's going to go up 4.9. This year it's going to go up 5.7. So just our employee costs are going up. Our fee schedule isn't necessarily helping us with that. Now, all the department directors and division directors have understood that it's important to keep fees low. And we imagine that you don't want your phone ringing off the hook as a supervisor because fees are going up. But I ask you just to consider, this is a draft. What would your reaction be to if we raised fees, if they're not otherwise statutorily set or been raised by a department or division director, if we raise them commensurate to what our inflation rate is? It's just a question for you to consider. This is a draft, but we are interested in hearing supervisors' perspective on that. We don't want your phone ringing off the hook because your constituents are complaining. On the other hand, a fee schedule with no increases is going backwards for us. So that's a dilemma that we're facing, and we're interested in your input on that.
I think the reality today in our marketplace, our constituents are aware that everything's increasing. And maybe it would be a time to have a fee increase representative of what inflation is without having a whole bunch of outcry. Because it's happening everywhere around them in every aspect of what they do. They're feeling that change. And if there's ever a time to do it, it's when it's happening all around them than it is at a time when it's not.
Makes sense.
It's just my 2 cents worth.
That's 10 cents.
Inflation.
Right.
So next month, you'll have an opportunity to approve the fee schedule. We have our divisional directors meeting tomorrow. We'll bring the topic up with division directors and get their feedback as well. If there are changes, we'll let you know at the next meeting, but I appreciate the discussion today. Okay, are there any questions overall about budget for 2024? We're going to move on. I think the next agenda item, I'm sorry, Russ. I think it's the investment.
No. Ordinary review of investment.
Okay, so let's go just keep going. We're gonna move past health fund investment update. All right. So we've been doing these each quarter now. We've got about $31.5 million in our managed portfolio. Situation slightly different than last time I was up. We're seeing some moderation with the yield inversion. Last time I was here, it didn't pay any, there was no reason to put money in long-term instruments. We're starting to see a little bit of a change. Rates right now are pretty good, historically good, going back 10, 15 years, we're at 5% or 5% plus in our cash management account. If we look out 180 days, but not beyond 180, then with CDs, we can get into that 5% range. And treasuries at that same kind of maturity are about 5%. So our investment advisors, the treasurer, Vince, and Jay, Luke, and I are meeting later today to have our first investment committee meeting in quite a long time. We're going to be talking about what's going on with the market, and we're going to be putting some ideas together for when we meet with our investment advisors later in the month. We have for that committee to consider a draft investment policy that staff has drafted and reviewed, and our advisors at PMA have reviewed as well. I'm just going to go through a few numbers now, and then I'll get out of your way. Mentioned that $31.5 million. We've shifted a lot of our instruments lately just because of this yield inversion. So we've got a lot sitting in cash, relatively small amount in CDs, and roughly a third in T-bills. Now, what we'll be looking at in the future is, because of those rates at 180 days, we'll be looking at building some investment ladders, taking advantage of some of these good rates 180 days out with the T-bills and the CDs. Next slide. It's really unusual to have this much in cash management right now. But it's because we're able to get a really good yield. And these are as safe as anything for us, given the way they're managed by the Wisconsin Investment Fund. So there's no real risk to the county to having a lot of its money in these high yield instruments. Next slide. I was asked a while back, really good question about maturities on our longer term investments. I need to point a couple of things out to the General Government Committee. We'll probably talk about a little bit more at investment. We have, with our auditor, declared that our ARPA funds are closed out. We have an account with PMA called ARPA. We're going to be moving the money that's in this ARPA account into the general fund. It's all, from an auditing perspective, it's already happened, and now it's just sort of writing the checks to make the movement happen. So next time you see this slide, you won't see ARPA up here at all. The money that's in there will go into general fund. We've got a laddered approach to our health fund. We need to draw on that all the time, so we set it out. The rates aren't fantastic in it, but they're going to get better. Any questions about this? This is T-bills. And I think I'm getting close to the end. We have very little money in CDs. We've only got 3 right now. We'll be looking at putting more into CDs in addition to the treasury bills. And just because the rates weren't great, we put them all in real short-term CDs. That may change. Okay. I'm going to sit down unless there's questions.
We have a discussion on the WPPA contract negotiations and the Stowers Trail litigation that's scheduled for full session.
There's no update on the Stour Trail litigation. I did receive an email from Matt Tone that was forwarded from Judge Black's judicial assistant asking for some documents in Word form. My assumption from that email is that the judge would like to copy and paste certain things from these documents into his decisions. That's the extent of the new information I have. So there's no need for a closed session on this.
However, we do have, it was asked at the last board meeting if we have an update on expenditures on Stour Trail litigation. I have that, but we thought from a strategic standpoint, since it is an ongoing process that it should be done, if, you know, we could share that in closed session only. If you want that.
Anybody want it? No, I don't think
We
that's-
could offer that then. Do we have a closed session in the board meeting to discuss this?
I believe
Yes, we do. So, you know, it's one of those that we thought, you know, since it's been asked for, we could share it, and I can do it at the board meeting if you'd like.
I think it's probably more pertinent at the board meeting than it is here.
And at the last board meeting, didn't the number come out anyway? So
No,
it's
we
not
just said
close.
it's over this amount, but we didn't know.
Yeah, not-
We've got it broken out by
not
year.
an Exact number. So how about the negotiations? We don't need they're not open yet,
they sent the initiating letter
open?
to open. And so if we wanted to have a conversation about comparables, and we also have the wage study that's happening contemporaneous with the negotiations. I don't know if we have information yet on any other counties that have settled, so we don't really have anything to discuss here, but I think we should maintain this on our agendas going forward as things come together. We'll work with Don Burrows and where the Dons can make recommendations. We'll probably bring Tip down as well.
All right, so we're kind of thinking at this point, we're just in hold mode yet.
Yeah, and we could start looking at dates that would work and have that communication so that we can make sure we have all the rooms reserved and everybody can caucus and all that kind of stuff.
All right. How about an administrator's update?
Yeah, I knew you guys would want that since another committee has one, so we put this on here. But actually, there are some, I just wanted to give you a quick update on the housing resolution, because it's a hot topic, and I wanted you to know that Don, Lee, and myself kind of laid out the parameters based on what Supervisor Olson originally intended. Just as a reminder, that we're looking at a zero interest loan up to $70,000. And these are things that we said, these are initial criteria. And as we start piecing these together, we'll put it in more of a resolution form and you can amend any or all of them. But $70,000 zero interest loans, $10,000 per unit, up to 7 units is how that money could be applied. Total pool of $200,000. They're on a 10-year term or loan due upon sale of the subsidized property. Program open to municipalities and tribal governments within Polk County. Projects must be located within the county. The projects may include multifamily developments, senior housing, workforce housing, low-income housing, or other housing developments in the public interest. So, you know, it's the community, local governments, what they desire matters. We're trying to avoid a developer going to a city saying, hey, this guy wants to build a $4 million house on the lake. Well, that's not what this money is intended to do. This is to help workforce housing and those in need based on what communities feel is most important. While these awards would be given to local governments, and public-private partnerships are encouraged. In other words, a municipality could work with a private developer, or the tribe could work with a private developer. We want to see something in action. We don't want a community to come and say, yeah, we want that money, give it to us, and then we're going to use this to recruit. No, we'd like for them to come with some idea of what they have planned and a targeted developer. Projects must conform to HUD, minimum housing standards, and the preferences for projects that will maintain or increase the tax base. As you know, the oversight committees from our priorities are HHS and environmental services. However, the general government will be overseeing kind of the process like I'm going over here and when we put a grant application together and so on to make sure that we're all comfortable with that. So projects must commence within 1 year. And that's pretty much it. We're going to expand now our project team and make sure that we have a program in place, an application in place, a resolution for you all and the board to consider so that we can start moving. So my only request, if you guys have other ideas or concerns or suggestions, feel free to let me know today, or you think by next month we should have a resolution to at least start thinking about.
Anybody got anything?
Me.
We're good. What's our work plan look like? We need to update it.
I don't have anything to update. Obviously, the budget's going to be ongoing quite a bit. We will be including probably some discussions on housing as we move forward on this. Recommend library service rates. I haven't heard anything.
Just working on those now.
Yeah. Anything on your mind?
You got enough going?
Yeah, budget's kicking in. And I'll give Don and the directors a lot of credit that we've been speeding this thing. I shouldn't say speeding up. We've moved everything up so that we have more time to evaluate. And in Don's case, more time to hear all the complaints and the concerns from the directors, but we're moving this thing up so we can vet everything more thoroughly. So we're doing a good job on that.
All right, how about subject matters for our next meeting? Leave us Sam if anybody has anything, you know, us or somebody to get it on the agenda.
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And the finance committee will meet in here, correct? Investment.